Do you want to make games? Join the WVU Game Developers Club. They meet every Thursday at 6:30 in the Evansdale Crossing, room 412. No prior experience is necessary. They help you make your first game, regardless of what background you have. Everyone is welcome. You can check them out on Twitter at WVUGDC. Also check out their Facebook page. We hope to see you there. Hey, and welcome to Game Talk episode 18. I'm your host, Ahmed Mian. This week I'm joined by Michael Dumeyer and Connor Haynes.
Hey, guys.
And our first topic today is going to be Fortnite Battle Royale. Now, a couple weeks ago, we did a topic on PUBG and just sort of the Battle Royale genre in general and how it had exploded onto the gaming scene and is by far the most popular form of multiplayer gaming right now. But just recently, within the span, it seems, of a month or so, Fortnite has seriously exploded onto the scene, having even overtaken PUBG in pretty much all metrics in terms of players who are concurrently playing and Twitch views and YouTube views. Fortnite has really sort of captured the current zeitgeist of gaming, and I kind of wanted to just bring it up to you guys and maybe talk about why that is and what are your experiences, if any, with Fortnite?
Right. So PUBG has a lot of issues with it, first and foremost, that kind of explain why Fortnite has taken off. Because Fortnite Battle Royale, because nobody plays normal Fortnite. Nobody cares about it.
I think it's called Save the World now.
Yep.
Yeah. It's been failing for a long time. But they already had, it's Epic Games that makes Fortnite. So they had this Unreal Engine. They had a lot of a game already built in Fortnite. And they saw the opportunity to seize this emerging genre or subgenre, whatever. But and they grabbed it. And at first it didn't gather a lot of steam, but it was on console before PUBG was. It's still on PS4 when PUBG isn't. And it has competent developers, which is something PUBG really just doesn't seem like it can say a lot of the time. Like, PUBG seems to be in damage control a lot of the time. Because I know the team has competent developers on it because I know some of their names.
It's Epic Games. I mean, they're...
Yeah, but Epic can blow a blue hole out of the water every time.
Yeah.
But PUBG, yeah, it's blue hole. It's a Korean company, I think. I don't know. They don't have a track record, really, and Epic Games has a pretty good track record. I mean, just looking like how well Fortnite runs on the same engine that PUBG runs on.
Yeah, and it's worth bringing up, Fortnite would not exist right now if it were not for PUBG, I don't think.
Oh, absolutely not.
But it really did seem like all the stars aligned, and I think the mantle was there for either PUBG or Fortnite to take and really sort of dominate gaming. And Fortnite took it while PUBG sort of just faltered. They're still dealing with cheating problems and just bug fixes. While it seems like Fortnite is an extremely polished product, getting constant, significant developer updates. It seems almost weekly. There's either tweaks made, locations added, or new weapons added to the game.
Right, they do like events almost like an MMO as well, or like Overwatch does.
Right, there's always a special mode or two that you can play in, limited time modes that, for instance, the most recent one was called like Golden Mode or whatever, and all the weapons that dropped were of the highest rarity, so everyone just had like the best guns.
So PUBG and Fortnite are two very different moods. I play both, and I would say, like, if I'm like kind of tired at the end of a day and I want to play a game, Fortnite is fine for that. PUBG's really not. PUBG's way more...
It's a very intense experience.
It's intense. I'm thinking about, like, gun attachments. I'm thinking about hiding spots. I'm thinking about all this different stuff. Whereas in Fortnite, maybe it's just... I don't know if mechanically it really is this, but the art style leads me to care less. Like, I'm not torn up when I don't win a game of Fortnite.
Yeah, and I think you brought up a good point with the art style. I think that's another reason why it's having this massive appeal, because of the cartoony art style. It appeals to younger kids more, and maybe that's a factor in why it has bigger numbers than PUBG now. Because PUBG is a very realistic shooter.
I definitely lean more towards PUBG's art style. I like it more.
But I'm saying
kids don't.
Yeah, exactly. The cartoony art style has a broader appeal. And as far as mechanics go, on the surface, I think it seems like PUBG is richer mechanically, but when you think about Fortnite's build mechanic, you can do some really crazy stuff. Like I've seen some streamers that just their dexterity is so high and they're building all of these structures within the span of seconds while also like fending off
Right.
like several enemies at once. You have to be really skilled to do that. So like for example, I think the most popular Twitch streamer for Fortnite right now, his name is Ninja. He goes by Ninja. He makes hundreds of thousands of dollars a month streaming Fortnite like 24/7. And he's number one for good reason. He does this thing where he goes into the squads mode just by himself and wins the entire game like regularly. So he's
Wow.
fighting like teams of 4 by himself, you know, and just dismantling them.
That's wild.
And so like there is like a very clear like skill depth of skill in that game.
See, I was finding in PUBG that there was only so good you could get at it. It felt like.
Yeah.
Like-
I really do think the building has added more dimension to this game than people might have first thought or suspected.
I think you have a point.
Mike, have you played Fortnite at all?
Nope.
Have you played PUBG at all?
Nope.
Oh, okay. So you still haven't been sucked into the Battle Royale craze.
Not at all. That's why I've been silent.
Yeah, I know. I was totally like you for a long time. Like a couple months ago.
I don't think you'd played PUBG
Yeah,
when we did our PUBG topic.
I hadn't played PUBG. I'd never really watched or played any Battle Royale style game. And then what finally got me into it is just some of my friends were playing, and I was just like, fine, I'll finally try it. And I don't know why I was so hesitant. I guess it was just one of those things where I was being a hipster, and like everyone
Yeah.
was doing it, so I didn't want to do it.
I get
But
that.
then I played it, and I was just like, okay, this is really fun.
Fortnite's kind of broken into the mainstream in a way that I didn't expect at all as well. Like you see you see all these memes on Twitter about girlfriends complaining about their boyfriends playing Fortnite, and that's something that I've never seen outside of Call of Duty.
Yeah, no, you bring up an excellent point. Like
I mean,
Fortnite,
Fortnite's a household name.
yeah,
at
it's
this point.
become mainstream so quickly in a way that's only happened like the most recent time that's happened I can think of is Pokemon Go, where
Yeah.
like everyone knew what that was. Like people who didn't even play video games. The same thing's happening now where people who don't play video games have heard of Fortnite. Like it really, and that's such a powerful tool for Epic.
And what's funny is a Fortnite victory is something that is respected outside of gaming communities at this
Oh
point.
really? I didn't.
I mean,
I'm not aware
like
of this.
like people know how hard it is to get. Like
Yeah, no,
it's-
and that's another thing too. Like that also increases your drive to play the game. Like you want to win. You know, it's because it's such a rare thing.
Oh
Like,
yeah, I've heard funny stories like my friends all play Fortnite together, and they play with their roommates and stuff, and they hate when they win and nobody's there to like celebrate with them, like
Yeah.
because it's such a big deal, and if nobody even sees that you did it, like
Yeah,
it feels like a hollow victory kind of.
yeah. I've been playing Fortnite since January, I think, and I've only won once.
Oh really?
So
What
yeah,
what game was it?
with
Squads,
duos.
duos.
Yeah.
I've won. I've never won Fortnite. I don't play it that much though. I've had some success in PUBG. I've won everything but No, I've won each mode, but I've only won solo once.
Yeah.
It's hard. It's
No,
really
it definitely is.
hard. It takes a lot of coordination to pull off a win in either of those games.
Just thinking forward a little bit, one thing I'd like to see from Fortnite kind of soon would be a new map.
Yeah.
They keep adding things to this map, which is cool, but there's only so much you can add to a map before it becomes like unbalanced. And I think it's in a really good place right now.
Right. I do think one thing that PUBG has over Fortnite that is a real game changer is vehicles. Because I liked one of my favorite things about PUBG was like how many different experiences would be in a single game. Like you'd have that early game where you're running around collecting stuff. Fortnite has that. But then the mid game in PUBG tended to be like finding a vehicle and driving around the map trying to find a place. And I feel like Fortnite is kind of lacking that mid game.
Yeah.
I don't know if it wants that though, because I think Fortnite wants to be a more focused, shorter experience.
Yes, I agree with you there.
And their map's a lot smaller, isn't it?
I mean, I I'm not sure about PUBG's map size, but I believe it is smaller. That's what I've heard.
You can drive for a pretty long time in
Yeah.
PUBG.
And I don't think Fortnite needs vehicles for what it's trying to be. I think it works just fine, especially because it has the building mechanic to sort of not like replace the driving, but
Right.
it's an additional mechanic where it doesn't have the driving. And also, I feel like if vehicles were added, maybe the pace would just be too fast because like they're
Yeah.
already very quick games. Like if you could traverse the map like 3-4 times faster, then they would go even quicker.
Right. There is one other thing that I feel is lacking from the entire genre right now, and that's really progression. Like something that keeps shooters alive for a long time usually is like unlocks and stuff.
Right.
And all they have is cosmetics right now, and I see why.
And you know,
Because-
it's kind of strange. The cosmetics are only you have to pay for them, right?
Right.
For Fortnite.
Really?
Yeah, you can't unlock cosmetics by playing the game. You
At
have
all?
to pay for them. The
Huh.
only exception is you can get a cool glider if you
Mm-hmm.
win.
Okay.
If you win the battle royale, you get a glider like pertaining to like the season that the game's in right now.
Okay.
But other than that, you have to like buy all your emotes, your dances, your
Oh, wow.
pickaxes, your
So there's
costumes.
nothing you get for winning except the glider.
Yep.
See, PlayerUnknown's Battleground had every time
Or at
you-
least let me backtrack. That's what I think because I've only won once,
Uh-huh.
and it could be the case that maybe you just get something random when you win, but I don't think that's the case.
See, PUBG gives you points for every game. You get more for kills and more for like lasting longer, and less for being on a team than you would alone.
Okay,
But
makes sense.
you can like buy loot crates for cosmetics with that, and I just don't know how long that'll keep people's attention because. And I get where they're coming from. Like, you can't give somebody a new gun in PUBG or Fortnite because everybody's pulling from the same pool of guns that they loot the whole time. I just think that it would be interesting to give them something that is more than cosmetic, like maybe side grades of some kind.
Yeah, no, I hear you, and that would be interesting, but like
I just don't know.
they're
what those could be.
succeeding so well right now without that, which is kind of strange, you know, when you
Yeah.
look at the big
Yeah, it is.
shooters. It seems like everyone is paying for loot boxes in this game, or they're not loot boxes, but microtransactions.
Really, they're
like-
not loot boxes in Fortnite?
No,
Oh wow.
yeah, you can specifically buy whatever skin you want and stuff like that.
In a free-to-play game, I'm tempted to drop
But I
some
think-
money on that to encourage
Yeah,
it.
I think the hook is that like a lot of the costumes and emotes and stuff are like timed. So if you like miss out, you're not gonna ever have that again. you
Oh
know?
wow.
So, yeah.
What's the
it-
average price of a
Like-
like five?
I'm honestly not. I think like $3 to $5,
Okay.
something like that. But it's surprising to me. Like me and my friends, we have not spent a cent on Fortnite. But it seems like literally everyone else, because like when you load up into a game, you're in like a lobby with all the other 99 players
Right.
for a little bit. It seems like everyone has skins, everyone has special dances, and it's just amazing to see like all these people spent money on these cosmetic things in this game. It's just like Epic is making a fortune off of it.
Right. And I mean, more power to them. I think a freemium economy in a freemium game is fine, and they're not even doing it in a predatory way. They're not doing loot boxes. I wish them all the money in the world.
They're not, charging you $60 for the game and then
Yeah.
locking the only form of progression behind loot boxes like someone.
Yeah. Nobody's stupid enough to do that.
Again, yeah.
But yeah. No, I wish them all the success in the world. Just talking about this is making me want to go home and play some.
No, it's so much fun. That's the thing. Like,
It has.
even in my when I'm like in downtime when I'm not playing video games, more often than not, I'm watching like a stream of Fortnite or like a really cool YouTube video of Fortnite. It's just it really has taken a hold of like mainstream gaming.
It
It's
also.
cool to see.
I like one thing that I really like about the art style, even though I prefer PUBG's art style, is that in Fortnite you can put like weird or ridiculous guns that would feel really out of place.
Right.
In PUBG,
Yeah.
like aren't there like chain guns and stuff?
No,
No?
there aren't. But like an example of what you're talking about, like the boogie bomb.
The boogie bomb?
When you throw it, if it hits someone, they dance and they dance for like 5 to 10 seconds or
and
something,
they
and
can't
they can't
move?
shoot. They can move, but they can't shoot.
Oh, that's
So
funny.
like if you come up to them and like start shooting them, they can't really defend against that.
So yeah, they kind of open the door for themselves for like wacky mechanics like that, and
Yeah.
I love that in a game.
Yeah, I heard like very soon one of their future updates is going to add a jetpack to the game, and I think that would be a pretty big game changer.
Yeah,
just
'cause
depending
people
on how
build those towers.
just
and
depending
stuff.
on how it works. Yeah, it's going to allow for like much faster
Mhm.
vertical and horizontal mobility, which could shift the balance of that game. But we'll see. They've been like so good about keeping the game well balanced and like constantly updating if there's problems. I'm not really concerned.
I understand there's cross-platform multiplayer for it.
Yes, that's another big thing. There is. I know there is between PC and PS4. I assume there is between Xbox and PC as well because
Why wouldn't there be? If
yeah,
there's,
PS4 and Xbox are never going to be able to play with each other because of Sony. They're being little children about it. But yeah, that's another huge plus. Like my cousin, he plays mostly on PC, and I was able to play Fortnite with him on my PS4, no problem. Granted, everyone on PC is significantly better because of keyboard and mouse controls.
Who gets the short end of the stick there? Is it a PC player in a game full of PS4 players, or is it a PS4
The
player?
PS4 players, for sure, because the PC players have mouse aiming, right?
Right, but who, like, if you're doing cross-platform multiplayer, is the PS4 player put on PC servers, or is the PC player put on PS4 servers?
I'm not sure about that, but it is 60 frames per second regardless of any platform you're on.
Right, but, mouse aim is a problem, and...
Yeah.
I mean, you can plug a mouse into a PS4, but...
You can, but, like, honestly, I haven't noticed too many issues. Like, yes, they're more likely to... Like, if an equal-skilled console player went against a PC player, yeah, the PC player would probably kill the console player.
But two casual players, I don't see it being
exactly,
a problem.
and most people playing the game aren't, at Ninja's level or something like
Right.
that. So I don't really see it as a problem right now, at least.
All right, I think that's all I've got to say.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's super fun. I'm
Yeah.
probably gonna play some more later tonight.
Yeah, I might as well.
And it's great. Yeah. I think Mike was going to introduce the next topic. Mike, do you want to take it away?
So there comes a time in every great franchise's life where it has to make that transition from 2D to 3D. And sometimes it works out, and other times it's a complete disaster that destroys the entire franchise and often the creators and everyone involved.
Sonic Adventure.
Sonic's still releasing games now, isn't it? They're not dead.
So is Donkey Kong.
so-
Donkey Kong 64 was a disaster.
Just to
It was a good game.
just to clarify, this transition was more of a problem, a decade and a half ago, as opposed to right now, right?
Right.
Like when games were when around the N64 era. So like, yeah, that's 18 years ago.
Yeah, there's not a lot of pressure for a game that's 2D now to go 3D because
Yeah.
it's not novel anymore.
Yeah, I mean, like, it would be like a cool retro thing if it did. I think, like, if Shovel Knight's next game was like Shovel Knight 64,
Yeah, but I just feel like people aren't nostalgic for
Not yet, at least. I think we're still in the nostalgia era for.
3D.
No. I'm saying we're not there yet.
I don't think there's ever going to be a nostalgia era for like N64 graphics,
You'd
really.
be surprised.
I
People get
mean-
nostalgic for just about everything.
Not beyond pixel art can be really good looking. But
Also, I would argue that we're already kind of getting there. Like, ukulele was a thing that was funded,
right, that's nostalgic for the gameplay, not the art style, though.
Oh, you're talking about strictly
I'm
like
talking about,
polygonal,
yeah.
Okay, I see what you mean. Yeah.
No, I definitely think people are nostalgic for early 3D mechanics and stuff that kind of went wayside.
Yeah.
But I don't think there's ever going to be nostalgia for N64 era graphics because like nobody's really nostalgic for the really really early 2D graphics. Like nobody's nostalgic for like Atari level graphics and stuff really. They're nostalgic for NES and Super NES,
Right.
which was technically very mature in 2D life.
Because that sprite artwork could still like looks beautiful by any measure today,
Right.
if it's done well. Whereas that
Early 3D
that
was
polygonal style,
such an
yeah,
estimation
like
of-
back then, of course, it blew your socks off because nothing like that had ever been done before. But now we have such detailed 3D polygonal
Yeah,
models
trillions
with
of
like
polygons,
yeah,
Not trillions.
yeah.
But
What, like millions?
yeah, definitely
Yeah.
millions.
and that number only goes up with each console generation. So why settle for a lesser version of the same sort of art style?
Right.
If you get what I mean. Yeah.
But the transition into 3D definitely got a few people. And what are some of the
you brought up Sonic, right?
Yeah, Sonic got.
Sonic had to figure out a lot of things in the transition. Things I'm still not convinced it has all figured out.
I think it did at some point, and they forgot again.
Yeah.
But that's another.
Star Fox.
I mean, Star Fox started off in 3D.
Yeah, Star
so-
Fox's issue was that the whole game, like, to Nintendo, was a novelty, that it was 3D at the time.
Right.
And then, once that wasn't a novelty anymore, they still had a game that people enjoyed playing, and that wasn't enough for them? I don't know. Like, they just kept wanting to shove other stuff into it.
You got to imagine at the time, like 3D was the next big thing, Nintendo would have it makes sense that they would have rushed to bring all their big franchises to that platform, sort of express them that way.
Right. But Star Fox was born in 3D and then just got worse.
I mean, Star Fox 64 was really good.
It didn't. Yeah, Star Fox 64 was the last good one.
Attempted sequel for the original Star Fox 2, was apparently really good, unless you ask IGN.
Yeah, that released last year, right?
Yeah. It finally came out after being in...
So I actually enjoyed, as a child, Star Fox Adventures and Star Fox Assault, a lot.
Okay, but neither of those...
I think those were okay.
They didn't start as Star Fox games, for one thing. They started as...
Adventures didn't, right? But
yeah,
Assault did, right?
Oh. No, Adventures was originally, Adventure on Dinosaur Planet or
Yeah,
something.
and then they made
they
a
were
Star Fox game.
Nintendo was like, you know what this needs?
Yeah.
Star Fox.
You know what this totally land-based game needs?
Yeah.
Space Foxes.
It's a very strange... That was my first Star Fox game. So
First Fox game?
I had a strange...
My first
upbringing.
Fox game was Super Smash Bros. Melee, and oh man.
Well, okay, if you put it like that, then that was mine too. But so what other franchises sort of struggled with the transition for 2D to 3D?
Donkey Kong.
Donkey Kong, yeah.
Donkey Kong.
I personally love Donkey Kong 64, but I guess it wasn't resonant enough for them to make more games in that style.
I didn't think Donkey Kong 64 was good.
Yeah.
Donkey Kong 64 was kind of the epitome of everything that was bad about collectathon games, because in essence it was one giant collect everything game.
Yeah, I remember as a child falling in love with that game.
What did it have? 8 different collectibles required to complete the game?
That sounds about right.
Or 9? It was ridiculous. Bubsy failed, but Bubsy wasn't good in the first place.
Yeah.
So
It attempted.
do you think maybe that has something to do with it? No, I guess not, because Sonic was good in 2D, and Donkey Kong was great in 2D.
Donkey Kong was great.
And
yeah.
then
I'm about to pull up the TV Tropes page for this. I'm going to get a list of examples.
it's not hard to come up with games that made the transition well, like Mario and Zelda.
Yeah,
I mean,
and,
both of those have excellent 2D and 3D games.
Interestingly enough, a lot of people argue that Metroid didn't make the transition well. I think the Metroid Prime games are very good,
Yeah,
but there are a lot of people who only like 2D Metroid.
I mean, I guess I could see where they're coming from, because Metroid essentially created a genre.
Right.
So anything that deviates from that would probably bug a lot of people. But I think by any objective measure, the 3D Metroid games are great.
I agree. Well, okay, so 3D Metroid games. The Metroid Prime games are great, but
That's what I meant.
Metroid Other M was supposed to be a 3D version of the old 2D games. It was supposed to be an attempt at a return to form, and it was atrocious.
I never played it.
They had gotten it right on the first time, and their attempt to move backwards was a colossal failure. So I would call Metroid Other M a failure to move 2D Metroid into 3D.
So Mega Man has kind of failed against the Polygon ceiling.
Don't you tell me this. Mega Man Legends was a fantastic game.
Wait.
It looked real clunky.
I loved it,
What?
though.
Were there any 3D Mega Man games?
Yeah, Mega Man Legends 1 and 2.
But was Mega Man Legends Mega Man?
What was Metroid Prime Metroid?
So
You
wait,
still had the morph ball.
what was Mega Man Legends like? Was it still a side scroller?
It was a third-person shooter.
Really?
Yeah.
I did not know this game even existed.
It was a third-person shooter. Yeah. It was just a third-person shooter. You ran and you shot stuff. It was a pretty faithful adaptation of Mega Man into the 3D space, in my opinion. Although they it had its own totally separate story from the old games, and there were only 2 of them, and never got a third. And they're very expensive now. The game's pretty rare. It's very expensive to get a hold of a disc or a cartridge. I think it was also released on N64, but I played it on PlayStation. It was I thought it was a good game, but
It's interesting. Do you think that any 2D game franchise could potentially successfully be ported to 3D? It's just a matter of picking and choosing the correct mechanics to translate. Because I could see in some bizarro alternate universe where, you know, maybe Mario's jump to 3D was terrible and Sonic's was really good. It's
if not for Z targeting, Zelda's would have been horrifying.
Right.
But then again, Ocarina of Time is viewed as one of the best games of all time.
Right. Because of
Another
Z-targeting.
game that did make it was the often forgotten, I believe, sequel to Secret of Mana, Dawn of Mana.
Never heard of it.
Yeah, I never heard of it either.
Apparently it exists. Let's see. PlayStation
This
2.
is an RPG, though? How would an RPG lose anything in the transition to 3D? I don't understand that.
Yeah, it's a Mana prequel. And it was an RPG, except you lost all your upgrades at the end of a level.
That's I don't know if that's a
See, I
fault
think
of
that's
the
just
Polygon ceiling. That's
incompetence,
just
yeah.
incompetent game design.
So,
Yeah.
like, Final Fantasy VI was a 2D game. Final Fantasy VII was a 3D game.
And it
their
made
first 3D game, and it's,
very
to this day,
yeah, it was
probably
graceful.
the most beloved Final Fantasy game.
They attempted to turn it into a 3D action platformer, from what I'm reading, with like no RPG elements coming from a 2D action RPG. That's a big jump in kind of design.
So what's interesting to me is to look at games that never made the jump, really. And what comes to mind immediately for me is Kirby. Kirby's never had a 3D game,
Wow, yeah, you're right.
except Kirby's Air Ride, and that doesn't count because that's a spinoff.
A different genre, essentially.
Yeah, Kirby has never had a 3D platformer, and that doesn't really make sense to me because I don't see anything about Kirby that would.
Limited like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Wasn't there a Kirby racing game?
there was Kirby's Air Ride, but it's a totally different genre. That's not Kirby.
I mean, it's a Kirby game. I'm gonna count that.
I mean, I think you have
Kinda.
to you
I mean,
have to
Kirby's Air Ride was
preserve like
good.
a couple of the core mechanics to say that it's like a Kirby game, like a Mario game. So that's
Has
like
to have
saying
running and
that's like
jumping,
saying Mario
yeah.
Kart's a Mario game. It's a
Right.
Mario Kart game, you know. Yeah, Mario games have to have running and jumping. Zelda games have to have the exploration and the sword,
Yeah,
I guess.
the combat.
Yeah.
Going by that, I could definitely say could classify Mega Man Legends as a Mega Man Legends game, not Mega Man.
See, I disagree because when I think of a Mega Man game, all I think of is running and jumping. It's a run and gun.
And
Jump
Shooting.
and shoot,
Yeah, and you can do all those things in Mega Man Legends.
jump and shoot, and side scroll.
I mean, yeah, you can't side scroll in a 3D game. You got me.
Exactly. Well, you can look at Nier Automata.
Okay, that's fair, but and Sonic now. I just I don't know. I don't think the polygon ceiling is I mean, I guess hindsight's 20/20, but I feel like incompetence was the problem with a lot
Yeah,
of people
now
that failed to get
talking
through
about it, I kind of feel the same way.
Like, I
Um,
mean, it's hard. I wouldn't. Okay, incompetence sounds
Or
really harsh.
Not incompetence, but just like lack of knowledge at the
Yeah,
time.
because
like you didn't
people
know
didn't-
it was all experimental. You didn't know what would translate well and what wouldn't.
And
you had
cameras-
to try.
like nobody had ever had to deal with a camera before.
Right.
Like that was all new.
I mean, if you think about it, the Sonic games still haven't learned how to do 3D right. And it's been how long?
Forever, 20 years.
20 years.
Yeah.
They're still trying. Every game's something new, and we're always surprised.
Well, it goes back to the learning aspect of it. It doesn't seem like they've learned from their failures in 3D. Like
They certainly haven't learned from their successes.
a lot of these other franchises did, you know, like Donkey Kong, like you said, Donkey Kong 64 came out. They tried some things in 3D, didn't work. All the subsequent Donkey Kong games were 2D, and they were
Yeah.
excellent.
That's because they went back to Nintendo. Nintendo just took it after Rare got bought out.
I mean, that's true, but Nintendo did learn from it.
Actually, I think wasn't a proper Donkey Kong game past 64 until
Until Donkey Kong Country Returns
Like-
by Retro.
10, 20 years later.
Yeah, it was a while.
There
There
was-
was that weird bongo game
Yeah,
on GameCube.
what was it called?
It's like Tropical, or
It
no.
was like Bongo Blast and
no, it was Jungle Beat,
Jungle Beat.
Jungle
and then there
Beat,
was
yeah, that was
like another Blast, something Blast game.
maybe. I don't know. I never understood those games. But I can
That-
say Donkey Kong Country Returns and Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze are both excellent games, but they're 2D, so they don't meet the topic. You know, I will also say there were some really weird transitions to 3D. Pac-Man, for instance.
Is there a 3D Pac-Man game?
Pac-Man
There are like
World?
2 of them.
Yeah, Pac-Man Adventure or something. I don't know. But it's like, you know, Pac-Man from Smash Bros? Like that was the look of it. And it was a 3D platformer. Everybody was a 3D platformer back then. It was just the game to me.
you know-
Pokemon did it.
For a second, I interpreted what you said as like the most millennial statement ever. You know, Pac-Man from Smash Brothers. You know.
No, yeah.
But anyways, yeah.
No, Pac-Man. I have a confession to make. When I was a child, not that young, my parents were talking about Pac-Man, and it took me forever to figure out who they were talking about. I was really upset with myself later.
But you can't, I don't know. You can't control your age.
No.
I don't know. I think we went through a lot of the games that made the transition well. Like, at least the notable ones that went through it well, and those that didn't. I can't really think of any more notable
No.
ones.
Definitely Zelda got it. I think it's interesting also to look at the games that went back after they'd already made it. Like Metroid, Zelda went back, Mario went back years later, Donkey Kong went back even though it never really succeeded in 3D.
Because with a lot of those franchises, the developers discovered that those were 2 separate ecosystems they could make intriguing games for. Like
Right.
2D Mario and 3D Mario are two
Totally separate,
completely
yeah.
separate beasts,
Like-
but both incredibly engaging in completely different ways. You know.
Yeah, like if you showed me Mario 64 with a character other than Mario, it's not a Mario game. But like,
I mean, mechanically it is, but
Yeah.
Mario just means something, you know. So when you
Right.
take that away.
like they're not, I don't know, they're not so linked. Like 3D Mario and 2D Mario, you could like one and hate the other. It's totally
Right,
possible.
Yeah.
So
And I think, good on Nintendo for recognizing that, like, just because they could now make excellent games in 3D doesn't mean they had to.
right.
Okay. So I think we'll leave it there, right? Our last topic today is the notion of console generations or video game generations. So right now we're in, the 8th generation of consoles with the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. I don't know if I should say Nintendo Switch as well, because Nintendo's in a weird place where they release sort of 2 consoles in the same generation.
Nintendo's in the twilight zone right now. They're wherever they want to be.
Right.
Pretty
They've
much.
definitely messed up our nomenclature.
Yeah. I'd say we're on generation 8.5 right now.
Actually, no, that's a great point, because both Sony and Microsoft released incremental upgrades to their Gen 8 consoles.
And then Nintendo released a
PlayStation 4
console
Pro,
people actually want to buy.
Xbox One X. So, yeah, I think it's very apt to say we're in generation 8.5 right now. And I just kind of wanted to bring up the idea of console generations and talk about it, because I think it's a pretty unique thing we have to gaming. Like, no other form of media has something like this. You know what I mean?
Right, and I think it's interesting. A console generation brings with it a lot of things. For instance, like the type of game that is incredibly
That is-
popular. Like we went from platformers back when we were in 2D, 3D platformers became big, first-person shooters became big, and then third-person shooters became big, third-person cover shooters, and now I think we're moving into a kind of action third-person. Like I think the Souls style is becoming bigger.
And also, each generation sort of changes what is possible.
Right.
For a game
or at
to
least
be.
it used to.
I mean, could you see Fortnite running on a 360 though?
Yeah,
Like,
I think so.
you think so?
I think
I don't think the
render
multiplayer
distance would have to be a
architecture
little
was.
low. I mean, there was a 128 player game on the PS3.
That's a good point.
So
But it ran like crap,
did it?
Like,
Okay.
so it's more than just, each generation brings it more than just graphical updates. Improvements in CPU allow for better AI and like
Right.
more things that can be done in the game.
Right, and then there's also like controllers have changed. Controllers didn't used to have gyroscopes in them and stuff, and they
Yeah.
do. And Rumble was more of a game changer than people like to think.
Yeah, no, it absolutely was. And I really like how each new generation sort of uses the technology at the time to sort of push the limit of what's possible in games. I
Right.
mean, like, the processing power wasn't there last generation to do VR.
Not
Like,
at all.
It just
Not even
wasn't,
close,
you know?
yeah.
Like, VR is a strictly Gen 8 plus thing. And I think if you look back, each generation had something like that to, like, make it stand out. Like, Gen 7 had HD gaming, you know?
Right.
That was a huge deal at the time.
One of the big things, I mean, you can look at all the first-party titles Nintendo did for the GameCube and see, like, Super Mario Sunshine. They were like, we can make water look good now.
Yeah.
Let's put it everywhere.
Yeah.
Pikmin could not have happened on the N64. Couldn't have that much AI, that many individually modeled characters on the
So
screen.
this would be, just to keep count, Generation 6 you're talking about.
Whatever.
The GameCube and
Yeah.
Xbox and PlayStation. Yeah.
Right. And you look at
PlayStation 2.
Zelda just they had that massive open world. They could you don't have load screens really in Wind Waker. That was big. Like when you get to an island, you don't go through a load barrier cuz streaming was possible.
Yeah.
And that was less possible on the N64 cuz there wasn't as much memory.
And then I think if we go back a generation further, Generation 5, which is N64, PlayStation. Yeah, N64
Just
and
making a
PlayStation,
3D
you know?
game
Just,
was
yeah,
the
3D gaming was
Yeah.
the huge jump there.
And everybody did it. Nobody wanted to make a 2D game for N64.
Right, like we mentioned in our previous
Yeah.
segment.
I mean, PlayStation had some pretty good 2D games. I'll say that, but Nintendo did not care for them at the time.
They were too busy with their shiny new toy.
Yeah.
If we go all the way back to the first generation of consoles, what was it? Like
I have no idea.
I think it was like an Atari.
It was like an
something?
Atari,
Atari
and a
2600.
TV. I
We're
don't know.
too young to know this,
Yeah.
unfortunately. The furthest my memory goes back is Gen 4 with like the SNES, SNES. You
See,
know?
I have the NES.
Oh, really? Okay.
I didn't have one as a kid, but I know a lot about it. Like I know the games.
So
and-
if we were to quantify it, you've been gaming from Gen 3 and up.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. Yeah, if you want to count me, I play a lot of NES games. I'm interested in them. I like them. I play them now. I didn't play them as a kid. I started on SNES.
Yeah. I think another cool thing to talk about is like the generation life cycle. Like Generation 7 went on for the
Forever.
for
It
the
was like 8
longest
years, wasn't it?
any generation has gone. Like for context, you know, the jump between N64 and a GameCube was what, like 3 to 4 years. Like that's
Right.
how long
Yeah.
the N64 was a thing.
The N64 didn't sell that well though, too. You have
didn't,
to
yeah.
keep that in mind.
And I think I've read a lot of analyses. Like a lot of people attribute the tail end of Generation 7 to like a poor economy, like.
I don't know that
and stuff
that's
like
it.
that.
I think that might have some part of it.
But
But
another big thing is games just take longer to make now. Like that's
See,
a huge factor.
I don't
in it.
think that's it either. I would say that it's because the difference between the PS3 and the PS4 is not nearly as big as the difference between the PS2 and the PS3.
I agree with that. Yeah.
And if they'd have released sooner, it would have been even smaller. Like they wouldn't have been able to convince someone to buy it, I don't think.
Yeah, that is the case. I do think going forward, it's just because dev times for PS4 and Xbox One, because I like follow a lot of these companies, they are pretty long. Like the low end is 3 years, and the high end is 5 to 6 years
Right.
for some of these games, and that in itself, like 6 years, could be like a modern console generation.
Right. We see
So-
a lot of games that have had to jump console generations, like that PS4 game with the magic dog thing.
The Last Guardian.
The Last Guardian. Yeah. That started as like a PS3 or PS2 game.
PS2, I believe.
It was PS2.
So, yeah, and like that burns a developer because like if you're developing for one console and you have to switch, especially with as huge a switch between the PS3 and the PS4, that sucks.
You have
That's
to
so much.
essentially. I imagine at one point in development, you have to go completely back to the drawing board again.
Right, and that's painful.
Yeah. Another game like that, Persona. Persona 4 came out originally on PlayStation 2. Persona 5 was a cross-platform between PS3 and PS4, but came out well after the PS4 came out.
Wow. Console generations are interesting to me as a PC gamer because I can see like a lot of games are cross-platform between the two, and I don't know, when a new console generation rolls around, I'll be like, oh, developers are going to care for a little bit again instead of.
So that's a good point. Even as a PC gamer, like console generations, to me at least, really do seem to dictate really gaming in general. Like when the PlayStation 5 and Xbox 2 comes out, you're going to see,
Xbox too.
you know what I mean.
Yeah.
You're going to see a lot of stuff that, yes, was possible in PlayStation 4, but you're going to see the envelope being pushed again.
Right.
You know? And that the impetus for that is always the release of a new generation. And I firmly believe, yes, each generation graphically there are diminishing returns because we're sort of approaching a ceiling on that. But there are more ways to innovate than just graphics. I mean, if
Right. There are a lot of things.
VR, for instance, this generation
That's a massive
is a
innovation, yeah.
huge thing, you know, and it really does seem to me that every generation, these creative developers find a way to utilize the new power they're given in a creative way.
Right. So what's your guys' favorite console generation?
Oh, that's tough. Okay,
GameCube. Definitely GameCube. Love that
I
thing.
love the GameCube so much, but it's really tough for me to decide because I really make such fond memories with each one.
It's hard to say not now,
I mean,
too, because there's so many
I
good games
kind of
coming
want to
out
say
right
now, but I feel like I'll be accosted if I do that.
Okay, so
So-
let me hit you with this. If you say NES, you did your prime gaming years during the NES era. If you say Super NES, you did any of those.
See,
if you say now, that is you acknowledging that gaming gets better as a medium with time, and I think it has to be now.
I think it does
Yeah.
get better. Like, a lot of people disagree with that sentiment, but I think gaming has only gotten better as a whole.
Especially recently. I think we've hit some slumps like loot boxes and stuff. But
But you
as
get
a
games
whole,
like,
gaming gets better
you know,
every
like,
year.
Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild.
Like,
you
I
know?
remember thinking in 2016, how's 2017 going to top this? And then 2017 happened.
2017 annihilated 2016.
Yeah.
And it wasn't even close.
Oh, yeah. And I
And
think
2018 is
has
looking good
potential.
right now. You know, I mean, 2017 is a once in a decade type year, I think.
And I think 2018 still has room to beat it. Like, I think it could happen.
But yeah, I was either gonna say now or just based off nostalgia N64 because that was my first console. Like, so generation, what was it?
Right.
5?
So I think it's fair to say that either you're nostalgic or you say it's now, though.
Yeah, no. I mean, everyone's biased that way.
My favorite console generation is the generation that Elder Scrolls 6 will launch on because it's definitely not the current one.
So
Bethesda's-
you're just preemptively calling
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, it's gonna be at least there's 2 IPs on the roadmap before the next Elder Scrolls game is gonna be announced, and they have like a 3-year gap between releases announcements. So
I think
2, 3.
that brings up a good point. When do you think Generation 9 will start?
I just realized that PS4 and Xbox One are not going to get an Elder Scrolls game.
They're not.
That's
Nope,
they're not.
they got Skyrim.
Yeah.
They're
They're gonna get a Bethesda new IP too.
I don't.
Going to be announced this
They're
year.
not
going
going to get a new Elder Scrolls,
No.
which is shocking to me.
Yeah.
It's appalling to me, actually.
They got a Fallout. That's all you need.
Well,
But-
the Wii U didn't get a Zelda, so.
Yeah,
what,
Bethesda.
what a time to be alive.
Or Metroid.
Yeah.
I'm calling it now. Bethesda's going to announce a new IP either this year or next year. They're going to announce like Starfall or something.
So, I think I'm just going to bring up, we're closer to the end of this generation
You think so?
than the beginning. Absolutely.
Oh, yeah. I think
I'm
we're past
already-
the halfway point, but I think we're just past
I think
it.
we're past the 2/3 point.
Really?
Yeah, I'm already seeing very faint rumblings of companies saying, CD Projekt Red
Yeah.
making Cyberpunk. They're saying they're making it for current and next gen consoles.
That's wild to me.
Like,
Although I don't think...
Companies are already starting to say
I think you
stuff
can
like that.
say that, and I think you can be full of it. Like, because
But-
the next-gen consoles are going to be... forgive my jargon. They're going to be x86 architecture. They're going to be just stronger versions of the current gen. 'Cause
Absolutely,
we
yeah.
are at
Really.
a point where there's no good reason to stop doing that because you'd be shooting yourself in the foot so hard with third-party support. Because right now, everybody's x86. Everybody can run the major engines. It's just easy to develop games
Except
right
you,
now.
Wii U, but you don't no longer
The
exist.
Wii U's not current, though.
But I hear what you're saying. But at the same time, a developer would not say that if there wasn't something tangible there.
I disagree. I think
I've read these kind of PR statements like all the
I-
time, and they don't do stuff like that.
I just think they're
well,
looking at how long the game's
but-
going to take to make and thinking to themselves, we're going to have to. We're gonna have to
regardless,
support this
that's
next
just
gen."
one piece of evidence. There's more. Starting in 2019, PlayStation's going to stop offering free PS3 games for PS Plus. A lot of people think that's because like PS5's on the horizon.
Wow.
I'm calling it another wacky prediction. 2018 will be the year that the Scorpio 2 will be announced.
Whatever happened to PS4 is the last PlayStation you'll ever buy? Wasn't that
I've never heard that before.
people talked about how they weren't gonna make there was not gonna be another console generation. They were
No.
just gonna keep upgrading the PS4.
No, that'd be stupid if they did that. I don't think they're gonna do that.
I mean, I'm not buying
Granted,
another
I
console,
do.
so
I think it would be stupid if PS5 was not back compat with PS4. Like that would be awful. Like
Yeah.
that would
And there's
destroy
also no
plays.
good reason for it.
Yeah.
See, I really don't think, I think they're not gonna have to include an emulator or anything because I think it really will just be a stronger PS4 that
No, I agree with you. Yeah.
that has games that can't be played on a PS4.
Yeah. It'd be like a 9 to 10 teraflop machine if it releases in the next couple of years.
Yeah.
Which is like over twice as powerful as the PS4 Pro right now, and I think that's a sufficient enough jump in
Yeah.
horsepower. So to just finish that thought I was having, a lot of analysts, a lot of people in the industry are predicting that Sony is going to have a reveal event for the PlayStation 5 in 2019, which is so soon to me. I hope that doesn't happen because I love the PS4 generation, this generation 8 we're on right now. I kind of wish it would just bleed over. Maybe I think 2020, 2021 is a great time to start moving into next gen. But I think it's happening sooner rather than later. Sony did announce that Sony and Microsoft both said that Gen 7 was an anomaly and they don't plan on console generations lasting that long.
Right.
they got to get it out there before Todd
and
releases
what?
a new game.
Let's see here. I think PS4, Xbox One came out in 2013, right? That sounds right?
Yeah, so 5 years.
So it's been 5 years. It'll be 6 years in 2019. If they announce it and release it in 2019, it'd be a 6-year console life cycle, which
And
is
that's about
not,
right.
which is not crazy. That it's totally possible.
I just don't feel the thirst for by the end of the PS3 and Xbox life cycle, there were a lot of people dissatisfied with the way their games looked.
Yeah,
And I just don't see that thirst for
I
a new
don't.
console.
I don't see it now either, and that's why I hope they drag it out longer. But I don't know. The signs I'm seeing point to it happening sooner rather than later.
I think they would have a lot of trouble selling a new console right now.
It'd have to be.
It'd have to
be at a
VR.
very intelligent price too.
Yeah, I think it would have to have VR included. Something crazy like
think
that.
so.
I don't think they could just sell a stronger PS4 right now because they're already doing that. And I mean, it's selling, but
Well, clearly, I think it's obvious at this point VR is going to be a big component of Generation 9, for Sony and Microsoft. Sony because they've already got their foot in the door with PSVR, and Microsoft because they know they have to get in on
Microsoft
that.
has their foot in the door with VR. They have Windows. They have Windows Mixed Reality, which.
Well,
they-
with their Xbox console.
Yeah, but they are producing games in VR already. With Microsoft, there's a Halo game in VR already.
Really?
It's terrible, but it exists.
Okay.
But yeah, they're doing the development. They just are probably waiting until next gen to
Yeah.
release a VR console. They might be. I hope not, but they might have They might be holding out for augmented reality as well, which I don't see working out for them.
Another interesting thing to bring up, say hypothetically, next gen starts in 2019. Where does that leave Nintendo? They're sort of desynced with this whole cycle.
They don't care.
They've kind of just gone off there in their own direction.
But also the generation cycle doesn't. I mean, you're not held to it really.
You're not held to it. It's just some
Because
arbitrary
this
thing
wouldn't be
we've
the
come up
first
with.
time Nintendo's been in that rut. The NES was competing with the Genesis, for instance.
Yeah.
And the Genesis.
And I think Nintendo's different enough from
Or was it
Sony
the
and
Super
Microsoft
NES?
to they're not going to be hurt by a more powerful, PlayStation or Xbox at all. They're going to be just fine
Right.
doing their own thing.
I mean, the Switch is
Now-
portable, and there's no amount of power you can cram into a console that would make it
So-
more appealing than a Switch to me as a PC gamer.
Let's be perfectly real about this right now. Even if say that next gen's happening in 2019 or even 2020 for that matter, Sony and Microsoft have almost certainly internally finalized the designs for their next consoles.
Oh, yeah.
Almost 100%. Do you think that there was enough time between the Switch coming out and their designs being finalized to incorporate some of the Switch's design into the next gen? Like, do you think there might be a portability factor to any of these consoles?
I don't think so, and I'm gonna say it's because Sony's tried. Sony's tried the portable console.
They have tried,
and
but
they
Nintendo has proved that it could work for a home console.
and I'm pretty sure Microsoft has said before they're just not interested in portable.
They have said that, but like I really do feel like the Switch coming out was a pretty big game changer. Like it opened a lot of eyes, a lot of third-party eyes, and I'm sure Sony and Microsoft were paying attention to. Granted, I'm just putting that out there. I absolutely don't think it will happen, but I think it's an interesting idea to consider.
I don't think it'll happen.
I'm perfectly satisfied with this current generation of consoles, but I'm a person personally that just is always interested in the new thing and the next best thing. So if and when PlayStation 5 and Xbox 2 are announced, I will be probably there day one, ready and excited to be wowed by whatever they come up with.
Do you think this is just a thought that hit me. Do you think there's a possibility there won't be another Xbox?
I think there will be another Xbox in the immediate future. So I think there will be a successor to the Xbox One. After that, though, I can't say for sure because, like we mentioned before on the show, it definitely seems like Microsoft is moving to a more software-centric role in all of this.
I agree with that.
Yeah, fascinating stuff. I love talking about generation iterations and stuff like that. Let's end the game, as always, by talking about games we've been playing or games we recommend. Michael, do you want to go first?
So, I was gifted Into the Breach by a friend of mine on Steam, and oh man, is it a good game.
What is it?
It's by the FTL devs. It's a turn-based tactics game that kind of feels like XCOM with a little bit of a twist. It's hard to describe.
I was actually talking to a friend of mine about this today, and apparently you're at a severe disadvantage for a lot of the game. The only advantage you have is that you can kind of tell what the enemies are going to do, and
Yeah.
you can react before they do it.
Yeah, every
So-
enemy's attack is set up their turn, and then you have a turn to dodge it or do something about it.
So it almost seems more like a puzzle than a combat to me.
It's a combat and a puzzle. Like some squads, like one of my favorite ones, relies it has a tank with a grappling hook that has one armor on it, so it takes one less damage. So in the early game, it takes nothing. And the grappling hook you can use to reposition any enemy or reposition the tank if you needed to. So, and another one of the tanks, the other mech, has an arc whip that will travel along to any enemy and friendly in a line in like an area, so you can hit, if you have a bunch of them together, you can clear a map really quickly. And then the last one just throws a rock that you can also chain through. So they synergize really well together, and if you set it up right, you can kill 8 or 9 enemies in one run very easily.
That's interesting. And it's got a roguelike aspect to it, doesn't it?
Yeah, if your mech dies, it's disabled for the battle, and you lose the pilot in it, which could be bad, could not matter if your pilot doesn't have experience on it. And once you complete a run, or if you fail a run, you get to take one pilot with you to the next run.
Oh, wow.
And only one pilot.
But that pilot's experience and
Everything's
stuff can
maintained.
make it easier.
I think my longest serving pilot served 4 timelines, is what they're called. And I got rid of him because I found a better one.
That's interesting. I was a big fan of FTL conceptually, I guess. I was never good enough at it to really enjoy it that much, and I kind of feel like I'm afraid that's where I would sit with Into the Breach. But
Into the Breach isn't as hard as FTL.
for $15, I'm tempted to pick it up. It's a good game.
The music's really good. Ben Prunty came back, and
Is this a Steam exclusive or is
I
it?
think it's Steam exclusive.
Okay, so it's not on console.
It's not on console.
I don't think FTL
Plus,
was on console either.
It gets you a free copy of FTL right now.
Oh, that's a cool
That's
deal.
good.
Yeah.
I have that. I think it's also cheaper for owners of FTL.
Yeah,
to kind of
I think
compensate
so.
for that. I think
Maybe?
I could be wrong though. Don't quote me on that.
I mean, I have a free copy of FTL just sitting in my Steam gift inventory right now, so I don't really care. I already played through FTL, so.
Yeah.
It's a really solid game, and I've played like 5 hours into it now and won it once.
That's nice. It looks really good. I would implore anybody who's into strategy games, turn-based strategy, to look it up. It looks fun. I'll go next. I've been playing Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze a lot, and I love that game. I'm a big platformer guy, and I don't think outside of like Super Meat Boy, which is a skilled platformer in a different way, like Super Meat Boy asks you to do skilled platforming for a very short amount of time, but it's very, very hard. Donkey Kong asks you to do somewhat hard platforming for a very long time, and I'm very into it. Like it's definitely a test of endurance to get through a level in that. And they kind of take a different approach from traditional platformers like Mario. Mario tends to introduce one mechanic per level and spin the entire level exploring everything you can do with that mechanic, and then they throw it away at the end. Donkey Kong doesn't. It introduces 2 or 3 mechanics per level, and like you explore them all individually, and then the level starts to do them both at the same time. It mixes that up for you, and I don't know, it just creates some interesting stuff. It's a varied game. The levels are a lot longer as a consequence of that, so it's just generally a different experience, and I think it's really fun. It may be my favorite platform right now. It's between that and Rayman Legends.
Wow, that's high praise.
Yeah, I like it a lot.
I have been playing, well, other than Fortnite, I've been playing Civilization 6 Rise and Fall. So the first expansion for Civilization 6 recently came out, and that prompted me to revisit the game. And Civilization is just one of those games that's like a black hole to me. If I get sucked in playing it, I'm just like stuck there for
Right, yeah.
dozens
oh,
of
yeah.
hours.
It's a classic one more turn game.
Yeah, like I start playing that game and then I look at the clock and like 5 hours have passed, like within the span of like a split second.
I've been there.
But I've always loved Civilization, and this expansion adds some pretty neat new mechanics to the formula. One of which is they kind of overhaul how golden ages work. So regularly in Civ, when your civilization is doing really well, after a set period of time, your civilization can enter a golden age in which they produce more resources, money, etc. With this expansion, they changed how that mechanic works. So you earn golden age and dark age points for things you do in the game. And depending on how your civilization, how successful it is for that particular era, in the next era, they either start the era in a golden age or a dark age. And the idea is that if they're in a golden age for the era, then the subsequent era has a higher chance of being a dark age. So you have to like really capitalize on your benefits. And conversely, if you're in a dark age, it'll be easier for you to get a golden age next era.
And
Okay.
if you get a golden age, it's called a heroic age, where you get
Right.
2 bonuses instead of 1.
Well, so that's the thing. If you get a golden age from a dark age, then you enter a heroic age. I think that's how that works. Yeah.
Yeah, and you get 2 bonuses instead of 1.
So it's a good sort of balancing mechanic for civilizations that fall behind to sort of grab the reins and charge ahead again. And I think it's really cool. A lot of smaller tweaks, like tweaks to the AI. I think they changed how diplomacy works, but I'm not too sure how it differs from vanilla. But yeah, it's another reason to revisit an incredibly addicting game.
You should say what Civ is.
So for those who don't know, Civilization is a turn-based strategy game in which it sort of simulates all of human history, but you're in control of a particular civilization, and you get to sort of shape how history develops. So another way to think of it, it takes like history and culture and religion and essentially puts it in a blender, and it lets you sort of evolve any way you want. So like, for instance, I could be, Germany or something. Like I could found the Germanic Empire, and I could create the religion of Hinduism as Germany, and conquer Japan or something, and make Japan's capital part of my it takes elements that exist in history and lets you play around with them, essentially, in the form of a turn-based strategy game. So if you like micromanaging resources and troops and that sort of thing, then this game is certainly for you. A lot of micromanaging necessary to do well in this game. But I'm into that sort of thing, so I think it's really fun. All right, yeah, I think that's going to do it for today. Thank you all for listening. We'll catch you next time. Bye.